Hello, I'm Chloe Rigby, editor of InternetRetailing.net, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, How Fashion Retailer Coast Uses the Power of Referral to Drive New Customer Acquisition, which is in association with Mention Me. Over the next hour, we'll be hearing from Emma Bonar, Head of Digital at Coast, and from Lizzie Lee, Global Cheerleader at Mention Me. They'll be considering cost-effective methods of customer acquisition with a practical example of how Coast is using the power of referral to gain new customers. Let me tell you a little bit more about our speakers before we start. Emma Bonar has managed e-commerce for fashion retailers in the UK and Amsterdam. She is currently head of digital at Coast, where she is responsible for growing the digital business and integrating on and offline channels. She's focused on driving new customer acquisition and optimizing retention, and the implementation of a customer referral program last year is at the heart of the strategy to achieve those goals. Lizzie Lee's career in solutions sales has spanned more than 20 years. She's been with Mention Me for more than 3 years as a global cheerleader, where she runs global sales teams. In that time, she's introduced the benefits of referral marketing to more than 300 clients across all sectors, from homewares to food, fashion to beauty. At the end of today's webinar, we'll move into a Q&A session. So ahead of that, let me explain how to ask any questions that you may have. On the control panel on your screen, you'll see a chat box. Write your question in that box and press send, and we'll aim to get to as many questions as we can today. The session is recorded, so I'd remind you that after the webinar finishes, we'll be sending out an email with a link so you can watch it again whenever it's convenient for you. So, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, Lizzie Lee, Global Cheerleader at Mention Me. Lizzie, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you so much, Chloe, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just to give you a short overview of what we intend to cover, we're going to outline really the secrets and the successes around referral marketing. My friend Emma is here with me, and we're really delighted to be partnering with Coast both on this webinar and obviously on their referral program. So we're going to highlight really why Coast decided to build referral into their marketing strategy and how they actually came to understand what the things were that really resonated well with their customers. Most importantly of that, we wanted to look at the metrics, which also look at that long-term value of referral and why it should really be at the heart of the marketing mix for every retailer these days. So just to give you some insight into some of those referral secrets, my friends in client success really talk about these a lot, and one of the things that they always highlight is that need to be remarkable. And when we talk about that, we really mean it. So to be worthy of remark to your customers. We did some consumer research earlier this year where we surveyed around 2,000 consumers and really wanted to start to understand what were the factors that even made a brand remarkable. It was really interesting seeing what those results were, and not surprisingly, being trustworthy was the primary factor that made a difference to consumers. If you're asking someone to buy from you online, to put their credit card details in and their address where their products are going to be sent, they really need to trust you in order to do that. Other things that were equally important, the product was good quality. When they bought something from you, if they bought a new dress or a new jacket, they wanted to know that after the first wash, it was still going to look as good as when they first bought it. And also interestingly, as we move further down the food chain, things like discounts actually are becoming less important. What's really key now to consumers are, for example, green credentials and how philanthropic a brand actually is within their everyday engagement with the consumer. Within that research, we also determined some of the sectors that are just literally more likely to be referred. And again, it was really interesting seeing where those results actually netted out. Things that are experiential, so restaurants, dining, holidays, things that you're actually going out and experiencing and then can come back and say to your friends, I found this amazing hotel, I found this great restaurant. It really also leverages emotional engagement with a brand and with an experience. If we look at the right-hand side of this slide, we're really then focused on things like women's fashion, men's fashion. The reality is women do typically share more than men. We talk to our friends about things that we've discovered and that we're really interested in. And so similarly, children's wear is particularly strong within this area, simply because it's mainly mothers who are buying the children's wear products. We also then looked at other sectors, so homeware. Again, if you have just invested significant amount of money into a sofa, for example, you're not going to be buying that every week. But when you do find something that you really like, you want to tell your friends about it. Beauty, whether that's top up or just through routine use, again, comes up very often within referral. Comments like, I love your skin looks amazing. What are you using? I love that lipstick you're wearing. And then again, looking at the right-hand side of this through to things like financial services and technology. Financial services can be really complicated, and it's also an area where trust is super important to share between consumers. Similarly, on technology, the products could be very complicated, and getting that recommendation from a friend where they really explain what's going on within that product can make a difference as to whether somebody buys it or not in the end. So I'm now going to hand over to Emma. She's going to talk about the background of Coast and why they started thinking about referral and working with us.
Thanks, Lizzie. Coast has been an occasion wear specialist since 1996. We were recently acquired by Karen Millen, and we operate online through concession partners and through international franchise partners. Our customer base is 25 plus, but predominantly in the 35 to 60 age group, so a little bit older. And we've got really loyal customers. So we've got a nice, big, loyal customer base, but to be honest, most people only shop for occasions once or twice a year. So we wanted to see how we could use our existing customers to find new ones in between these occasions. We also recently extended our product range beyond weddings and races to include different areas such as prom and curve with the larger sizes 20 to 26, and as well as some more relaxed styles. And we wanted to look at ways of finding new customers to tell them about these ranges. So the answer to both of these questions is referral, which not only helps us acquire new customers, but gives our customers an incentive to come back after this first purchase.
Thanks, Emma. So one of the questions that we're always asked is that when should you actually be asking customers to go ahead and refer, and how should you be asking them? And the key thing is you do need to ask. You need to make sure that as much as there'll be spontaneous conversations going on and word of mouth that could be happening around your brand anyway, you need to make sure that you're really proactively asking customers and getting them to go ahead and share with their friends. But the key is actually when that should be. And typically within our client programs, there are some really obvious points within the customer journey that work incredibly well. The first one, and because it's quite straightforward, is online. It's easy. They're already engaged. They're hopefully not in the middle of doing something else, i.e. making a purchase. And also we want to ask them when they're happy. So the point at which someone has just spent money with you, put their hand in their pocket for their credit card and handed over the details, ready to make that purchase, is the perfect time. So post-purchase is typically where we would start working with our clients in terms of promoting referral. The other points to think about are actually during the customer journey when your customer is really happy. So we've mentioned post-purchase, but also at the point perhaps where they are waiting for the delivery. So one example could be in the post-purchase email. It could be at the point of unboxing. So the point at which the customer is receiving the product that they've been excited about and feeling really good about seeing the thing that they purchased online. This particular example, when we look at beauty, this could be, again, thinking about first use, going through to routine, through to top up. So there are lots of points on that journey. And one of the things that our client success team work with our clients extensively on is really understanding what are those key points and when we should be asking for that referral.
So initially with the Coast program, we launched an overlay on the order confirmation page. So after you've placed an order, you see an overlay screen with the referral offer on it. And as Lizzie mentioned, this is a really great place to position the offer because customers are happy. They've hopefully just had a great experience making their purchase and they're excited about receiving their order. So they're in a good mood. It's a good chance to tap them while they're happy. So in the first 9 months of the program, we did a number of A/B tests and we increased the promotional offer, and that helped increase the referral revenue by over 450%. And revenue from returning customers also began to be an important factor. So following on from initially just testing in this one place on order confirmation, we also added a link to the website footer, which links to a landing page, which can also be used in promotional emails. And this landing page now accounts for 26% of our referral orders.
So whilst we're asking, we don't just need to ask in any old way, we need to ask nicely. We need to make sure that the messaging to the customers really resonates and makes sense to them. Again, going back to our consumer research from earlier on this year, we were keen to understand what customers will actually value. And again, this is essentially not always about, is it the 20% off or is it the 10% off for the free delivery? And it really varies significantly across demographics. So what we tended to find was that younger demographics, as you can see, are 18 to 24s, were actually quite keen on the percentage off a minimum spend order. That definitely fluctuates as the demographics get older. But essentially what we're trying to do, Emma mentioned our A/B testing, is really get to the thing that best resonates with each segment of your customers. There is definitely not a one-size-fits-all. And so it's really important to be able to look at different offers that you could put into the channel, and whether that's actually down to something like that fixed amount off a minimum spend, or it's a charity donation. We work with an energy business who really wanted to do something demonstrably different from their competitors in the market, and charity donation really helped them to stand out and do that. So we're now going to look at specifically what Coast have found in terms of pursuing that A/B testing to understand what's important to their customers, both from a content and an offer point of view.
So we have undertaken a number of A/B tests, and initially the obvious one is the level of incentive. So we've tested a number of different incentive levels to see what drives more referrals, but also what drives the best return on investment. Not surprisingly, perhaps, in this case, testing 10% against 15%, 15% performs significantly better. Not only does it drive more orders, but it also, interestingly, increases the average order value. So AOV for the 15% offer was 41% higher than it was for the 10%. We also tested generous versus self-interested wording. So this revealed some interesting results. We like to think that Coast customers are all terribly nice people, and if there are any Coast customers listening, I'm sorry to say it turns out that they're not actually as nice as we thought they were. So Coast customers are actually more likely to respond to an offer for themselves. So Coast customers responded better to the self-interest offer, with 10% more people sharing the offer and 17% more referred customers. We also tested some wording. So it's interesting to see that little changes to the copy can make a really big difference. So in this case, we added the word online. So referring a friend to get 15% online rather than referring a friend to get 15%. And the difference was 4% more referred customers when the word online was used. Who knows why? We're now testing some slightly more complicated issues. So we're looking at segmenting our customers by initial spend. So if you spend over £200, you'll be offered a higher discount. And in this case, the higher spend segment introduced 57% more friends, and 85% more of these people make a purchase after the referral. So this has been really successful for us. They're much more valuable as customers.
So it's great to see all these new customers coming through, but are they any good long term? Are they good quality customers? And the key thing that our clients see repeatedly is when we look at the lifetime value and that first order AOV, it's usually significantly higher. So for example, if we actually look at the first order value, it's typically around 10 to 25% higher through referral compared with using other marketing channels. And similarly, they have on average double the lifetime value. The main reason that our clients use referral marketing is for an increase in customer acquisition, typically around 10 to 30%. We don't cap out at 30%, but that's a typical range of what we can expect to see. We have many instances at the moment with clients where we're actually accounting for in excess of 30% total acquisition. So again, it can be a really powerful channel when used correctly. Now, I don't want to let the 4 letters of doom of this year escape this webinar, the GDPR. Again, it was really interesting seeing the change in behavior, so particularly on the marketing rights opt-ins. Pre-May, we would probably have seen around 75% in marketing rights opt-ins, because obviously we had a pre-ticked box like the rest of the world. Now we're probably netting out at around 25%. And this is a great sort of side benefit of referral, getting those customers who might not yet have actually converted to be your customer, but we still know who they are. They're still a warm lead list. And so our CRM teams in the audience, I'm hoping, will like the fact that they can actually get that as part of the referral program as much as the acquisition piece. Also, when we think about referrers, so I'm often asked the question, well, you know, are there incremental purchases from existing customers? And I'm very happy to say that yes, there are. Typically, we expect to see around a 54% increase in purchase from existing customers, because there's just another reason for them to come back and buy from you. And similarly, driving loyalty. Loyalty and referrals sit really nicely side by side. And again, what we tend to see is that customers who have themselves been introduced to a brand through referral will also go on to become a referrer themselves. And they will also recommend the brand typically around 3 times more often than other customers. So the psychology that's sitting around referral is really powerful. We're not just putting incentives into a channel and hoping for the best. We're really trying to understand what these customers are doing and how we can better incentivize them going forward.
So at Coast, we're really happy with the response we've had to the program, in particular the impact that we're seeing on average order value and frequency. Referral customers have a 29% higher AOV and make 10% more purchases than non-referrers.
So just in summary, I've mentioned obviously that referral can be a very powerful and key marketing channel. That 10 to 30% of new customer acquisition, again, can really be enhanced through A/B testing. It's about trying to understand what's the right thing for your customers. And again, when we're asked, well, you know, what should we start testing or what should we lead with, we have a series of hypotheses that we're going to test. And it's really then about seeing against your different segments of customers what really is going to be most impactful. Also thinking about the incentive, it's a nudge. You know, if we are not delivering on our promises, either from a product or a service perspective, unfortunately, your customers just won't refer to new referees. So whilst the incentive can be a nudge, it's not going to be the reason why somebody's actually going to refer your brand. But understanding the right points of delight and the right points within that customer journey to ask for the referral are really key to making the program successful. It's also about making it easy for the customer to refer. So at Mention Me, we've tried to move on from just link-based sharing to allowing your customer just to share using their name. What that means is it's a really nice friction-free journey for a customer to say, actually, Lizzie sent me, and you can use my name on Coast and try it out. But just to make that journey very straightforward, name sharing accounts for typically around 35 to 40% of successful referrals that our clients enjoy. And what we're trying to do also through that process is really understand and tailor for your particular demographic. Emma had outlined at the beginning the kind of customers that she typically sees coming through to Coast. But we also work with very different brands. We work with Misguided, for example, who has a very different profile from the Coast customer. And then lastly, referral can actually improve a number of metrics. So I'd mentioned that higher AOV and the double lifetime value that clients typically see coming through the referral channel. Again, because customers are coming to the brand warm and they're not just responding to a Facebook ad or some outdoor that they've seen, they're actually taking on board that both relevance and that reputation filter that their friend has applied to actually say, I know that you're telling me about Coast because you think it's a great fit for me and you think I'll like it and I trust you. So therefore the conversion on that is significantly higher. So Chloe, I think we're going to open up to questions at this point. And thank you very much again for listening to our content this afternoon.
Well, thank you for what was a very interesting and informative presentation. We're going to go, as you mentioned, to questions now. Just a quick reminder for anybody else who has a question on how to ask it. On the control panel on your screen, you'll see a chat box. Write your question there and press send. And if your question is directed to one person in particular, then please do mark that. And we'll aim to get to as many questions as we can today. So first question, and I think this is probably for you, Emma. How much support do you get or do you need with the referral program?
Good question. Well, to be honest, it's been a really great relationship. So we've got a very good account manager who supports us on an ongoing basis by analysing the program, making suggestions for things we should refine, new A/B tests we should try. And in terms of the setup, it was super easy. We worked really closely with the Mention Me team. They came into our office for a whole day and we had the whole thing up and running in a really short space of time. So yeah, actually, I think the support's been fantastic.
That's great. Lizzie, is there anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. So we actually really try and focus on client success specifically. Our business model is wholly around CPA. So it's in everybody's interest to make sure that both the client is happy, but also the program is performing. And, you know, by giving the client different ideas, best practice approach, and, you know, taking things that we've seen work really well across our client base, of which there are now about 400 different brands, but also things that we've seen not work well, and try and guide clients away from things that we know are, you know, potential cul-de-sacs and things that aren't going to deliver for them. So it's really about building that collaborative partnership that Emma mentioned, and making sure that everyone is getting the most out of the program.
That's great. And then staying with you, Lizzie, for the next question. How does referral compare in cost to other acquisition channels?
Gosh, that is literally the million-dollar question. Well, I think it really depends on your brand and obviously what other channels you're using. I think if you asked 99% of our clients, they would say that the ROI from the referral channel is one of their best performers, simply because, one, they are obviously paying on CPA, and two, it comes down to that quality of the customer that I talked about. So this is not just about bringing in deal hunters or, you know, people who are just shopping on sale, but actually people who genuinely like the brand because their friend has suggested it to them, and therefore they do become that long-term advocate. And it's also about understanding how we can get that customer not just from their first purchase, but obviously to becoming a core repeater, and really then becoming the person who, you know, will go ahead and themselves refer and share because they've had a great experience with the brand.
I just jump in there and add that we would certainly agree. It's definitely one of our highest in terms of ROI, spend versus profit.
That's great. Next question. Can referral, and I think this is for you again, Lizzie, can referral work for sectors where purchase frequency is low?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. Obviously, we're talking with Coast as a retailer today, but we also work with all manner of different businesses. So energy companies, online dating. One of the best examples of that, actually, and there's a case study on our website about this, is Glasses Direct. As I'm sitting in the room with two glasses wearers, they probably don't go out and buy a pair of glasses, you know, every week. It's probably something more like 18 months to 2 years in terms of that repeat purchase cycle. So it can, the key thing is firstly to understand that you have that long purchase cycle, and, you know, putting a 10% offer into the channel probably isn't going to be the right thing. And actually in the case of Glasses Direct, they used a third-party voucher simply because we wanted to make sure that the referrer, so the existing customer, felt like they were getting something worthwhile out of it, but then still use that introductory offer for the new customer really to drive speed of purchase and conversion.
That's great, thank you. Next question is for you, Emma. How do you integrate to get segmentation of order size?
Oh, I'm not sure I quite understand the question. How do you integrate?
Well, yes, I guess what are the mechanics of being able to segment by order size from a practical point of view? How easy is that to achieve?
So I can certainly take that from the platform perspective. So the integration with the client site is all done via tags. typically we will look to the client to use their segmentation. So for example, anything from a VIP program through to, you might want to give something different to your most frequent shoppers or to your sale-only customers. In terms of actually delivering what I think that question is asking around order value. So one of the things that Coast have done is that if you spend over £200, we'll give you this offer. And again, that's just a parameter passed to us through the tag. And equally, if you spend less than that, we'll give you a different offer. The theory being around referral, and certainly proved in practice, is we want to take your best customers and get their best friends. So if you have somebody who's spending over £200 who then refers, the likelihood is that you will bring back another customer with a similar profile. And equally, if you have someone and they're referring and then maybe, you know, the sale buyer or the heavy discount hunter, they'll likely bring in a similar kind of customer. So that's, as I said, I hope that answers what that question was looking for. Really just to focus on the segmentation and then think really just practically and logically around what makes most sense to put in front of them.
That's great. Thanks, Lizzie. And then staying with you for the next question, is the A/B testing done within a platform or is it support-based?
Great question, and we probably haven't talked enough about A/B testing because it's certainly something that we're absolutely obsessed with. So all the A/B testing of the offers is done within the platform. Testing referral and A/B testing within referral is actually quite complex, because if Emma promises me an offer on Monday and by Wednesday she's changed her mind and she wants to do something else, I've actually already seen that offer and I want to make sure that that offer is honoured and I have a great customer experience. So we do all of the A/B testing within the platform by cohort, and what that essentially means is that I, as the customer, stay in a group of customers, typically for 6 months, with that particular offer. So regardless of where I interact with it, whether that's on the site, that's through an email campaign, that's on a Facebook ad, I will consistently see that offer. And so essentially, as I said, it means the client can run really robust concurrent A/B testing and up to typically around 6 different variants at one point across any campaign.
That's great. Next question I think is also for you, Lizzie, but if Emma, you have any thoughts on it afterwards, then do please jump in. This question is, when forwarding an email with a referral code, how does it work in terms of capturing the friends data in terms of GDPR?
Oh, I'm so glad we've got a GDPR question. I'd be disappointed if we didn't. So firstly, just to clarify, we don't get involved in forwarding the email. So the emails that any customer send go directly from their own email client directly to their friend. So we, as mentioned, me and our platform would not see those emails. And in this case, neither would Emma and her team at Coast, because clearly it needs to make sure, you know, for compliance perspective, we need to make sure that that email, as I said, is going directly from one customer to another. So it is peer-to-peer sharing. So in that sense, we're not capturing any data from that potential new customer until they actually then interact with the program. There'll be a sharing link within that email. And once the potential new customer clicks on that link, they'll be asked to enter their email address in exchange for a voucher code. So that's the point at which we would then know about them. And obviously they've given their details at that point.
That's great. Next question, is this a good step to take for a startup company?
So we get a lot of businesses approaching us of varying sizes, literally from the brand new to the big monsters and the very well established online businesses. For a startup, the key things that we would look for are, one, that you're getting good online traffic. Clearly, if no one knows about your brand at all, there's nothing literally for the referral program to leverage. So you have to have that existing loyal customer base and people who are happy to talk about you from the beginning. If you look at businesses that we've worked with now over significant time periods, and I'm talking 3 to 4 years, like Bloom and Wild, Truva, Spoke, Biscuiteers, when they started with us, they were very tiny, but they put referral in the heart of what they were doing and the heart of their acquisition from the beginning. So their customers also have been very used to using referral from the beginning. So to answer that question, getting online volume is really the fuel in any referral program. So as long as you're getting that, even if you are a startup, then that's great. We would typically say if you're getting sort of probably, depending on the business, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 orders a month, or if it's a subscription business, around a similar kind of number, it's probably a little bit early. But again, it depends on growth rates and where you're actually trying to get to and how fast. There are some very fast-growing, aggressive businesses, disruptors particularly. So if you're doing something completely different in the marketplace, referral also works really well for that, because it's very topical for people to say, I've just discovered this great new brand. There's nothing like it in the market. Referral will literally help to take that company viral.
That's great. We've got a couple of questions about email marketing. Who do you use for email marketing? Plus, is this something I can do through MailChimp? Is there a particular email marketing approach that's important here?
Well, I can answer. Coast work with .mailer for email marketing, but actually this doesn't use the .mailer platform at all.
There you go.
It's platform agnostic.
Perfect. A last question, not the last question, but the next question, which I guess could go to either of you, but maybe if you can start, Lizzie. Do you communicate different levels of referral bonus to the customer?
So I think that question might be related to tiered rewards. So I hope I'm going to give the right answer. So there are a couple of things around that. You can absolutely give different levels of incentive to different segments of customers, as we mentioned previously, around, like, for example, VIPs, and depending on the segments that you're using. If you think about things like tiered rewards, so that's typically you're trying to accelerate the incentive for the customer depending on how many successful referrals they achieve. So for example, it's typically for one friend it's 1x, for 2 friends it's 3x, and for 3 friends it's 5x. So it is exponentially increasing alongside the number of new customers the existing referrer and the existing customer is bringing in. And all of our referral programs are really transparent in both what the customer needs to do and what they're going to receive, simply because we don't want to burden our clients' customer service teams with a whole bunch of questions on, how and why and when. So as long as you're transparent with them from the beginning, that seems to set those programs up particularly well for success. So as I said, I'm hoping that the tiered reward answer will help with that.
I think that's great, yes. We're coming up towards the end of our questions that we have in. So if anybody does have another question that they want to ask, then do pop it over now. But the last question we have at the moment is, can you prevent somebody from gaming the system?
Yes, so we have 2 fraud controls within the platform. I think the first thing to highlight, obviously, is trying to claim something to which you are perhaps not legitimately entitled in this context is unfortunately human nature. So whilst we can't stop people doing that, as in a mindset, we can certainly manage the way it manifests itself for our clients. So the first thing that we do on the referrer side, you can limit the number of referrals that an existing customer can claim. Typically it's 5 in a day, 25 in a year. We'll advise and work with the clients, or our client success team will, as to what's commercially acceptable for them. One end of the spectrum, some clients don't care. They just want as many referrals to come in as possible, and they're happy to reward the referrer accordingly. The opposite end of the spectrum, if, for example, you might be giving Amazon vouchers out, of a significant value, then you might want to actually cap the number that somebody can claim in any particular time period. So we call that a velocity control. And then the second part of that, so probably this is where the question was coming from, more active gaming, so people setting up multiple email addresses and trying to refer themselves. So our gaming algorithm will score every single referral, actually regardless of whether you have the gaming controls switched on or not. And what we're looking at in that instance is any similarities across those customers that we think might be potentially dodgy, in inverted commas. So that could be cookie, IP, obviously we look at the email address, name, first 5 digits of the postcode. So there are probably about 25 different factors that we are considering when we are trying to determine whether we think this is a gaming customer or a legitimate customer. So hopefully that answers what that question was looking for.
I think it does, yes. We've just got another question in. Do you ever find that customers find referral programs complicated and might not understand?
Sorry, Emma from Coast. I think we're confident that actually it's pretty simple, particularly because customers only have to enter the name of the person that's referred them. We have had no contact at customer service about it since we launched the program back in 2017. So I would say that it is as simple as it can be.
That's great. Lovely. Well, that, I think, brings us to the end of our question session and to the end of the webinar. So I'd like to wrap up by thanking everyone for tuning in today, and to our speakers today. Thanks to Emma Bonar, Head of Digital at Coast, and Lizzie Lee, Global Cheerleader at Mention Me, for joining us for today's webinar. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in and for your questions. And as always, we'll follow up by email with a link to the on-demand webinar, which you can listen again to at your convenience. So thanks all for taking part, and goodbye.